Security Chief Vaxthor had seen a lot of weird things during his 15 cycles on Station Harmony. He'd witnessed a Glorbian accidentally sneeze their third lung across a cafeteria. He'd watched a human try to pet a Class 7 electrical discharge because it looked fuzzy. He'd even survived the Great Cinnamon Challenge incident of Stardate 3847, which had resulted in 3 species declaring cinnamon a biological weapon and one requesting the recipe. According to YouTube analytics, 99.3% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. But this was new. Vaxthor stood in Corridor 7 Delta, all 4 of his eyes blinking in asynchronous confusion, watching the most absurd parade his career had ever produced. Leading this circus of interstellar stupidity was one Jennifer Martinez, human, age 26 standard years, occupation listed as xenobiology research assistant, but functionally operating as the station's biggest problem. Behind Jennifer, in a neat little single-file line that would make any military drill sergeant weep tears of joy, waddled 6 Zytherian cubs. Not juvenile Zytherians, not young Zytherians. Cubs, actual, honest-to-the-stars babies of the most notoriously aggressive apex predator species in the known galaxy. Vaxthor pulled up his datapad with one trembling appendage. The Zytherian species profile loaded, and he read it for perhaps the 100th time this cycle, hoping it would somehow say something different. Exwitherian species profile. Classification: Apex Predator, Class 10 Threat Level Average, height 2.8 meters average, weight 340 kilograms, notable characteristics: retractable claws 15 cm, triple-jointed jaw, armored scales, aggressive territorial behavior, poor impulse control, excellent strategic thinking, natural weaponry sufficient to puncture starship hulls. Threat assessment: extreme. Approach with caution. Do not engage without backup. Do not make eye contact. Do not show fear. Do not show confidence. Do not exist near them if you can help it. Social behavior: highly protective of young. Will kill perceived threats without hesitation or remorse. Or paperwork, apparently. The cubs were doing that little hop-waddle thing that baby creatures do, their tiny scales glinting under the station's artificial lighting. They were, Vaxthor had to admit with great reluctance, objectively adorable, like tiny tanks with eyes. Deadly, deadly tanks that would grow up to be even deadlier tanks. "Martinez," Vaxthor called out, his translator rendering his exasperation into perfectly understandable Federation standard. "Stop walking." Jennifer turned around, and the cubs immediately crashed into each other like a multi-car pileup on a transport highway. They made little chirping sounds. Chirping. The galaxy's most dangerous predators were chirping. "Oh, hey, Vax," Jennifer said with the kind of cheerful obliviousness that had probably kept humanity alive through their entire evolution. "What's up? What's up? What's up?" Vaxthor felt his primary heart skip several beats, while his secondary heart considered going on strike. "Martinez, why are there 6 Zytherian cubs following you through my station like you're their mother?" "Oh, these guys?" Jennifer glanced back at the cubs, who had reorganized themselves into their previous formation and were staring up at Vaxthor with big, multifaceted eyes that definitely should not be capable of looking innocent, but somehow absolutely were. "They just started following me. Aren't they cute?" "Cute," Vaxthor repeated flatly. "Martinez, their parents are currently in docking bay 12, probably having a collective aneurysm because their offspring are missing." "Oh no, their parents know where they are," Jennifer said, waving her hand dismissively. The cubs mimicked her movement, their little clawed appendages waving in unison. Vaxthor felt something in his brain break. I talked to Matriarch Scarix about it. She said it was fine. She said it was fine. Yeah. Well, first she threatened to rip my arms off and eat them in front of me. But then she said it was fine. This was the problem with humans. They said things like this as if it was a completely normal progression of a conversation. Vaxthor had read the human literature, the cultural files, everything. He'd studied Earth's history extensively after the first batch of humans had arrived on the station, figuring he should know what kind of chaos he was dealing with. What he'd learned was that humans had somehow survived despite every evolutionary advantage going to things that wanted to eat them. And they'd done it primarily through stubbornness and the absolute refusal to acknowledge appropriate fear responses. "Walk me through this," Vaxthor said, holstering his stun baton because he was clearly not going to need it, and also because his appendages were shaking too much to hold it steadily. "Start from the beginning. Why did Matriarch Scarix threaten to dismember you?" "Okay, so," Jennifer said, and Vaxthor already regretted asking. "I was doing my rounds in the xenobiology lab, right? And I heard these little squeaking sounds coming from the ventilation system. Please tell me you didn't." "I absolutely climbed into the ventilation system," Jennifer confirmed cheerfully. The cubs chirped. One of them tried to climb her leg but got distracted by her shoelace and began attacking it with the intensity of a warrior in battle. A very small, very adorable warrior. "Of course you did. Why did I even ask?" "So I'm crawling through the vents, following these sounds, and I find these little guys stuck at a junction point. They'd crawled in from somewhere and couldn't figure out how to get back out." Vaxthor pulled up the station schematics. The ventilation system connected to the docking bays through a series of maintenance ducts. His third eye started twitching. They crawled through 17 sections of station to get to the lab. Apparently. Anyway, I grabbed them, all 6 of them, stuffed them under my jacket because they were cold, and took them back to the docking bay. The mental image of Jennifer Martinez, barely 1.6 meters tall and maybe 60 kilograms soaking wet, stuffing 6 apex predator cubs under her jacket like she was smuggling contraband fruit, was going to haunt Vaxthor's dreams, nightmares, whatever. "And then you walked up to Matriarch Scarix," Vaxthor said slowly, "one of the most dangerous beings currently aboard this station." "And did what exactly?" "Handed her the cubs," Jennifer said, as if this was obvious. "But she was standing behind me when I turned around, so I kinda jumped and screamed, and she thought I was threatening them. So she did the whole—" Jennifer made a growling sound that was probably meant to be intimidating but sounded more like a broken garbage disposal. "Thing. Very loud. Lots of teeth. I'm amazed you're alive. Right?" But then I opened my jacket, and the cubs did that chirping thing, and she just stopped. Like mid-threat. It was wild. One of the cubs had successfully defeated Jennifer's shoelace and was now proudly presenting it to her like a trophy. She bent down and scratched behind what Vaxthor assumed was its ear equivalent. The cub's scales fluttered with pleasure, creating a soft rattling sound. The other 5 cubs immediately demanded equal attention, creating a small pile of deadly babies around Jennifer's feet. "So she thanked you," Vaxthor said, trying to find the logical conclusion to this story. "Not exactly. She stared at me for like a really long time. Then she said something in Zetherian that my translator couldn't parse, but it sounded important. Then she said I was pack now. Pack. Pack. You are pack to the galaxy's most dangerous predator species." "I know, right? How cool is that?" "Not cool. The exact opposite of cool. This was a diplomatic incident waiting to happen. This was a disaster wrapped in catastrophe, deep-fried in chaos, and served with a side of what the hell. And the Cubs just started following you? Yeah. After that first meeting, they kept showing up wherever I was. The lab, the cafeteria, my quarters. That last one was weird because I don't know how they figured out which quarters were mine. But they'd just be sitting outside my door every morning, waiting. So now I just bring them along on my rounds. They like watching me work. As if to demonstrate, Jennifer continued walking down the corridor. The Cubs immediately fell back into formation, their little clawed feet clicking on the deck plating in a synchronized rhythm that was frankly unsettling. Vaxthor followed, because watching this train wreck was apparently his job now. They passed a group of Glorbian traders, who took one look at the parade and immediately flattened themselves against the bulkhead. Glorbians were not known for cowardice, but they were known for excellent survival instincts. One of the Cubs looked at them and sneezed, which came out as a small puff of flame. A tiny gout of fire. Did that Cub just breathe fire? Vaxthor asked faintly. Oh, yeah. They do that when their sinuses are irritated. Station air's a bit dry for them. I asked maintenance to increase the humidity in the corridors I usually walk through. You asked maintenance to modify station environmental controls for the Cubs. Well, yeah. They get uncomfortable otherwise. They turned a corner and nearly collided with Ambassador Zelkor, a dignified Rithian with 3 decades of diplomatic experience and a spotless record of interspecies conflict resolution. The ambassador looked at Jennifer, looked at the Cubs, looked at Vaxthor, and then very slowly backed away while maintaining direct eye contact with the security chief. The universal gesture for this is your problem now. You know, Vaxthor said conversationally as they continued walking, most species have a healthy fear response. It's an evolutionary advantage. It keeps you alive. Fear's just biology telling you to pay attention, Jennifer said cheerfully. These guys aren't scary. Look at them. They're babies. The Cubs were currently engaged in what appeared to be a game where they took turns jumping over each other. One miscalculated and rolled head over tail, ending up on its back with all 4 legs in the air. It made a confused chirping sound. Jennifer laughed and helped it up. They are babies now, Vaxthor stressed. In 6 cycles, they will be 2 meters tall and capable of crushing steel with their bare claws. Yeah, but they'll still know me. We're pack, remember? This was the other thing about humans. They bonded with everything. Vaxthor had seen the reports from other stations. Humans befriending deadly fungus colonies, humans adopting parasitic crystals, humans teaching social behaviors to hive-minded drones. There was a human on Station Galactica 7 who had somehow become best friends with a sentient black hole. Nobody knew how. The human just said they got each other. Does this happen to all humans? Vaxthor asked. This compulsive need to adopt deadly things? I mean, on Earth, we domesticated wolves, and they started off trying to eat us. That explains so much, and yet somehow makes everything worse. They arrived at the xenobiology lab, where Jennifer's supervisor, Dr. Korvan, was waiting. Dr. Korvan was a Zentari, a species known for their logical minds and emotional stability. He looked at Jennifer, looked at the Cubs, and Vaxator watched in real time as the doctor considered early retirement. Martinez, Dr. Korvan said, with the tone of someone who had given up on understanding the universe. The Cubs are here again. They like learning about xenobiology, Jennifer said defensively. They are xenobiology. That's how they can provide valuable first-hand perspectives. One of the cubs had wandered over to a lab table and was staring intently at a petri dish. It prodded the dish with one claw, gently, as if it understood the contents were fragile. Another cub had found a data pad and was tapping the screen, pulling up images of different species. It chirped excitedly and showed the pad to its sibling. "They're learning," Jennifer said proudly, as if she were their actual mother. "Last week, this one," she pointed to the cub with the data pad, "recognized a Glorbian respiratory system diagram." "Why was there a Glorbian respiratory system diagram?" Vaxthor asked, though he immediately regretted opening that particular box of chaos. "Biology class," Jennifer said. "I've been teaching them about different species. You know, cultural exchange. They're 6 weeks old. Never too early to start education." Dr. Corvan made a sound like a deflating balloon and retreated to his office, muttering something about humans and insanity, and how he should have taken that job on the research vessel studying cosmic background radiation in the middle of nowhere. Vaxthor's comm unit chirped. He answered it, keeping one eye on the cubs, who were now carefully examining a molecular microscope like tiny scientists. "Security Chief, we have a situation in Docking Bay 12. Of course they did. "What kind of situation?" "The Zytherian delegation is requesting to meet with Jennifer Martinez. All of them, including Patriarch Volkram." Vaxthor's primary and secondary hearts both skipped beats this time. Patriarch Volkram was Matriarch Scarix's mate and the leader of the Zytherian delegation. He was also a decorated war hero who had single-handedly fought off a pirate raid on a colony ship, killed 16 attackers, and then calmly requested medical assistance for a splinter in his thumb. The pirate corpses had been the medical emergency. "Tell them we'll be there shortly," Vaxthor said, then looked at Jennifer. "The entire Zytherian delegation wants to see you." "Cool. Do you think they want to watch the cubs too? They're really proud parents." Proud parents of the babies currently investigating how to operate laboratory equipment. The walk to Docking Bay 12 felt like a death march. The cubs maintained their formation, occasionally breaking ranks to investigate something interesting before hurrying back to their place in line. Other station residents saw them coming and created a clear path, which was probably the smartest thing any of them had done all cycle. The docking bay doors opened, and Vaxthor's survival instincts screamed at him to turn around and retire. Immediately, maybe flee to a remote moon and take up farming. The entire Zytherian delegation was assembled. 12 full-grown Zytherians, each one a masterpiece of evolution's cruelty, stood in a semicircle. Matriarch Scarix was at the center, with Patriarch Volkram beside her. They were both nearly 3 meters tall, covered in scarred scales that told stories of countless battles, with claws that gleamed in the bay's lighting. The cubs saw their parents and made excited chirping sounds, but didn't break formation. They stayed behind Jennifer, waiting. Jennifer, because she was either the bravest human in the galaxy or the one with the most malfunctioning survival instincts, walked straight toward the delegation with a smile. "Hey everyone," she said casually, as if greeting friends at a social gathering instead of walking into what could easily become her execution. "What's up?" Matriarch Scarix looked down at Jennifer, then at the cubs, then back at Jennifer. She made a rumbling sound deep in her chest that Vaxthor's translator helpfully labeled as contemplative amusement / possible threat assessment. "The young ones follow you," Scarix said. Her voice was like rocks grinding together, but there was something almost gentle in it. Almost. "Yeah, they're great," Jennifer said. Really smart, too. They're learning about xenobiology. Patriarch Vokram stepped forward, and Vaxthor instinctively reached for his weapon before remembering it would be absolutely useless. The Patriarch looked at Jennifer with eyes that had seen more violence than Vaxthor could imagine. You saved our offspring, Vokram said. I mean, they were just stuck in some vents. No big deal. They could have died. Station maintenance could have harmed them, thinking them pests. You carried them to safety. Like I said, no big deal. They're good kids. Vaxthor watched as something passed between the Zetherians, some silent communication that their species used. Then Matriarch Scarix did something that Vaxthor would remember for the rest of his life. She knelt down, a full genuflection. In Zetherian culture, according to the cultural database that Vaxthor was frantically pulling up on his datapad, this was a gesture reserved for only the most honored members of a pack. It indicated complete trust and respect. The other Zetherians followed suit. 12 of the galaxy's deadliest predators, kneeling before a human who weighed less than one of their legs. You are pack, Scarix said formally. Our young have chosen you as guide. We accept this choice. You are now Denmother to our offspring. They will learn from you, hunt with you, grow with you. Jennifer blinked. I'm sorry, what? Congratulations, Vaxthor said weakly. You've been adopted by the most dangerous species in known space. Our cubs are yours to teach, Patriarch Vokram continued. And our strength is yours to call upon. Any who threaten you threaten our pack. Any who harm you will be hunted across stars and systems until nothing remains. One of the cubs chose this moment to waddle up to Jennifer and present her with a shiny piece of metal it had found somewhere. She took it, examined it, and smiled. Thanks, buddy. This is really nice. The cub chirped happily and returned to formation. So, Jennifer said slowly, just to be clear, I'm like their babysitter? You are Denmother, Scarix corrected. Teacher, protector, pack. Our young will learn your ways. We wish them to understand other species, to build bridges instead of battlegrounds. You have shown kindness where others show fear. You have shown strength through compassion. These are lessons we wish them to learn. Vaxthor's translator pinged with a cultural note. The Zetherians were attempting something unprecedented. They were asking a human to teach their cubs diplomacy through example, to show them that not every problem required claws and teeth, that sometimes the strongest thing you could do was be gentle. It was actually rather beautiful. In a terrifying, potentially catastrophic, definitely going to give Vaxthor stress ulcers kind of way. Okay, Jennifer said. Because of course she did. I can do that. But they have to keep up with their regular Zetherian training too. I'm not going to mess up their cultural education. Agreed, Vokram said. They will learn our ways and your ways. They will be bridge builders, peacekeepers. Cool. Also, they need more humidity in their environment. And I think their diet could use some variety. I've been reading about Zetherian nutrition, and I have some ideas. Vaxthor watched as Jennifer Martinez, xenobiology research assistant and apparent den mother to apex predator cubs, began discussing childcare with beings who could crush starships. The Zetherians listened attentively, occasionally interjecting with questions or suggestions. The cubs played at their feet, occasionally bringing Jennifer various objects they found interesting. It was absurd. It was ridiculous. It was the most human thing Vaxthor had ever witnessed. His comm unit chirped again. Security Chief, We're getting reports from all over the station. Apparently, the Zytherians are allowing humans to approach them. They're being friendly. We have 17 reports of Zytherians helping humans with various tasks. What's happening? Vaxthor looked at Jennifer, who was now sitting on the deck with all 6 cubs crawled over her like she was a living jungle gym, explaining something about protein synthesis to matriarch Scarex. Humanity is happening, Vaxthor said tiredly. Humans are happening to us. Should we be concerned? Vaxthor watched one of the cubs successfully operate a datapad to show Jennifer an image of a Zentari cell structure. Ask me again in 6 cycles, when those cubs are fully grown and possibly teaching other species about friendship. That's not an answer, sir. It's the only answer I have. Over the next few weeks, the station adjusted to its new normal. Jennifer continued her rounds with her deadly entourage. The cubs learned at an astonishing rate, picking up Federation standard, basic mathematics, and a concerning number of human colloquialisms. Vaxthor frequently heard them using words like cool, awesome, and inexplicably, yeet. The Zytherians became less intimidating as their cubs integrated into station life. Other species realized that if the cubs trusted Jennifer and the Zytherians trusted Jennifer, then maybe humans weren't so scary after all. Or maybe humans were exactly as scary as everyone thought, but in a different way. Vaxthor found Jennifer one day in Observation Deck 3. The cubs were lined up at the viewing window, watching ships come and go. She'd set up a teaching session about different vessel types and propulsion systems. This is a cargo hauler, she explained, pointing to a massive freighter. See how it's built for capacity rather than speed? And that one there, that's a scout ship. Fast, maneuverable, perfect for exploration. The cubs chirped and took notes on their datapads. Notes. They were taking notes. You've doomed us all, haven't you? Vaxthor said, settling into a seat beside Jennifer. What? No, I'm educating them. You're teaching apex predators about humanity, about compassion and curiosity and that insane optimism your species has. And that's bad because? Because, Vaxthor said, watching the cubs. In 6 cycles, they're going to be ambassadors, bridge builders like their parents want. They're going to spread this insanity to other Zytherians, to other species. You're essentially franchising human behavior across the galaxy. Jennifer grinned. Sounds like a good problem to have. One of the cubs waddled over and climbed into Vaxthor's lap. It looked up at him with those absurdly innocent eyes and chirped questioningly. Don't look at me like that, Vaxthor said. I'm supposed to maintain professional distance. The cub tilted its head and chirped again. Fine, Vaxthor sighed and carefully patted the cub's head. Its scales fluttered contentedly. Jennifer laughed. See, you're getting it. Getting what? The human thing? It's not about being fearless. It's about choosing to care anyway, even when it's scary, especially when it's scary. Another cub brought Vaxthor a datapad showing a Glorbian respiratory diagram. It chirped excitedly, pointing at specific structures. Yes, that is a tertiary lung, Vaxthor said, examining the diagram. Very good. Did you know they can breathe through their skin in emergency situations? The cub's eyes widened. It immediately began typing questions into the datapad. Congratulations, Jennifer said. You're helping raise baby apex predators now. Welcome to the pack, Denmother Vax. Vaxthor looked at the cubs, then at Jennifer, then back at the cubs. One of them had fallen asleep against his side. Another was showing its siblings something on a datapad, all of them chirping excitedly about whatever discovery they'd made. I'm going to need a raise, Vaxthor said. Worth it though, right? He watched the cubs, these tiny, deadly babies who were learning to be curious instead of aggressive, to ask questions before attacking, to build relationships across species lines. He thought about the future they represented, a future where the galaxy's most dangerous predators were also its most enthusiastic students and diplomats. Yeah, Vaxthor admitted. Worth it. The cubs chirped in agreement, and somewhere in Docking Bay 12, Matriarch Scarix and Patriarch Vokram watched through security feeds and rumbled with satisfaction. Their offspring were learning, growing, becoming something new, something better. All because a human had found them stuck in a vent and decided to help. That was the thing about humans, Vaxthor reflected. They didn't conquer through strength or intimidate through fear. They simply cared, relentlessly and without logic, until the entire galaxy had no choice but to care back. Jennifer Martinez, Denmother and accidental ambassador, sat surrounded by the cubs who adored her, teaching them about the wonders of the universe. And in doing so, she was teaching the universe something too. That kindness, not force, was the greatest strength of all. Even if it gave security chiefs heart palpitations and diplomatic corps nervous breakdowns. Especially then, because that was very, very human.